just gonna start the recording. All right. Hello, my name is Amelia Vera, and I will be your facilitator for today. I would like to welcome you and thank you for joining us on this October afternoon, wherever you may be. We are here today to introduce Professor Fayaz Bakir and his new book, Social Transformation in Pakistan, The Art and Science of Linking with the Other. We have a series of keynote speakers today, including Professor Fayaz and his guest, Professor Kazu Takamura from McGill University, and Mr. Shaubib Sultan Khan, the person who inspired the book, who is zooming in from Pakistan. Thank you for being here today. We will begin our program with a few words from Professor Barish Karaj about Scholars at Risk, the Trent chapter, and following Barish, we will hear from the chair of the Department of International Development, Professor Chris Bayers, who will personally introduce Professor Fayaz. Fayaz will be followed by Professor Takamura and Mr. Shaobi. At the end of all speeches, we will open the floor to a Q&A, so please save your questions for last and send them to me through the chat function. Thank you, and Barish, whenever you're ready, please take the floor.
Emilia, thank you so much, and thank you everyone. I'm honored to be included as part of this book launch, this event today. I would like to particularly thank our students and Dr. Bakir for being with us today and making this possible. It is an interesting coincidence that I'm connecting from Greece tonight instead of Toronto, Canada. I'm here to see my family because I cannot see them back home in Istanbul for political reasons. And actually, this evening, I plan to meet two academic friends who have been in exile in Greece. That's, I think, a very interesting coincidence for me. I just want to share that with you. I'll keep my part very brief. This is a journey that began 4 years with the initiation of our students at Trent University, mostly from international development studies. And after the pandemic, during which we were rather dormant, again, a group of students, some of whom are with us today, took the leadership and started a series of talks, events, to promote academic freedom, both in Canada and worldwide. And I'm thankful to all of them. And I would like to thank them for organizing today's event. And I would like to defer to our chair, Dr. Baer.
Thank you, Barish. It's my pleasure and honor to introduce Fayaz Bakir at this event for launching his new book, Social Transformation in Pakistan, The Art and Science of Linking with the Other. Fayaz Bakir is a development practitioner and was a visiting professor at the University of Ottawa from 2018 to 2020. He worked as the program monitoring officer of the Aga Khan Rural Support Program, out of which the current book arises. He has also worked as a national coordinator of the UNDP's Small Grant Program, as chief executive officer of the Trust for Voluntary Organizations, as senior civil society advisor of the UN system in Pakistan, among other important posts. He has researched, taught, and lectured on innovative participatory development practices at a number of universities. And among his other recognitions, he has received an award for setting up the most vibrant small grants program in Pakistan. His previous publications include Poverty Alleviation and Poverty of Aid, Pakistan, with Taylor and Francis, and a 2019 co-edited volume with Routledge, Better Spending for Localizing Global Sustainable Development Goals, Examples from the Field. To come to the book being launched today, Social Transformation in Pakistan, it treats participatory development and it's the approach adopted by the Aga Khan Rural Support Program, which remarkably doubled the income of 100,000 families in the world's highest and most inaccessible region. This is the area, where the Himalayas, the Karakoram, and the Hindu Kush ranges meet. Now, this program in turn laid the foundation for the emergence of the world's largest poverty alleviation program, the South Asia Poverty Alleviation Program, or SAPAP. SAPAP is the world's largest South-South cooperation program and the largest microfinance program for women in the world. The book seeks to demonstrate that it is the community that determines if development finance succeeds or fails. The book also argues that investment in the development of social capital is more critical to the success of a project than subsidizing the project budget. So with those few introductory remarks, I very much look forward to hearing more about this book. And please join me in welcoming Fayaz Bakir.
Thank you so much, Chris. That was a lovely introduction. Fayaz, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me begin by thanking Heidi Sidki, who took the lead in organizing this event, and her team, which includes Serena Karavich, who designed the poster for the event, and Amelia, and Jordan Roth. All of you, and Professor Chris Byers and Professor Boris Karagak for introducing me and for introducing the book, and kindly for their kind words about me and about my work. Since we have very limited time, and the book is 650 pages. So those of you who are going to access the book and see it, you will be enjoying it for a long time. It's a long read, but very, very interesting and fascinating book. Because Shoaib Sultan Khan, beside other things, he has one unique quality, that every village that he has visited during more than 50 years of his career in rural development, and every meeting that he has held, he writes a note for record for that event. And this book is based on that. He doesn't only go to the field, but he also writes. So he kept notes of those, and they were known to all the people around him as NFRs, notes for record. So this book is based on that. But also, it was not reading the notes, it is reading between the lines, which was of interest to me. Whatever is written, what does it convey? So it covers a time span of more than 50 years. And it is spread on so many pages, but I will, for your convenience, summarize it in one word. Why we say the art and science of living with the other? What is the secret? What is the magic word which captures that? And that is the word humility. So many people who know Shoaib Sultan Khan might think, what am I talking about? Because humility doesn't mean compromising on standards or compromising the quality of your work. Shoaib Sultan Khan is known to be very hard taskmaster and a very tough negotiator. So the word humility should not be confused with that. Humility is the willingness to learn from the always see other as a source of hope, not as a source of fear, and always have the optimism that you can find a middle path. you can find a way to work together. And this humility he exercised with every group of people, every layer of the people he interacted with. And I would like to talk about that. For one thing, to begin with, when you go to the community, humility is asking them, do you want to rise above poverty or not? Is poverty your problem or not a problem? And if it is a problem, what is the barrier? Why can't you rise above poverty, relying yourself? And how can we help to remove those barriers? And do we agree with whatever solution we come up with? And are you going to play your due role in doing that or not? That is humility. Because you give them dignity, honor, and you show the modesty to learn from them. And it always produces miracles. It always does wonders. And that is why it started in one district and then it spread to entire South Asia. So that is humility. In community, when you're dealing with the community, it means asking them, what do you want? And what do you think of our solution? And how you are going to reciprocate? What conditions you have to fulfill? It is not a handout. You are a partner at equal level. That is what it means. And humility in dealing with community conflicts. Whenever there were conflicts within the community and they came to him or his management team, Shoaib Saab would say, look, you resolve your differences yourself. We are not here as godfather or patrons. We are here as your partners. You know best how to resolve your differences. So come back to us once you resolve the differences yourself. That is also respecting them, respecting their power, and respecting their judgment. So that was humility in dealing with the community. When you read these notes, you will see very interesting narration of all these things that I'm talking about. Third is dealing with the government. It is not easy, especially in South Asia, to deal with the government officers. Whenever you go to them, most of the time, in your dialogue, they will start with a no. No, this cannot happen. So Shoaib Saab, and I will just narrate an anecdote. When he started his program in India, Andhra Pradesh state of India, Chief Secretary Kapula Raju, he asked him, he said, Shoaib Saab, you have come here with many claims, and UNDP has brought you here as a lead expert. We don't want to hear some 6 months from now from you that we have not met your conditions. So you tell us right in the beginning, what are your conditions? And he said two conditions. One is that poor should be willing to remove poverty. And secondly, they should be willing to organize themselves. If these two conditions are met, then result will be produced. Then he asked him how large an area you want to cover. He said, I will show my work only in one village. And as his mentor, Akhtar Hamid Khan used to say, if you do your job well, it will have a snowball effect. And that is what happened in India. You do your job well, show it in one area. So that is also humility, because you don't go there with big claims and big plans and things to deliver. You say that, okay, I will show you. If it works, then everyone will be coming to you instead of you going after them. And with politicians, I mean, it's how do you communicate with them? He had a very, very simple formula. Most of these secrets he has not written in his book, because I had the opportunity to talk to him and learn from him. His secret for getting politicians on board was to invite them for a field visit without telling them in advance that because politicians think they're elected by the people. They know what the people want. They are the true representatives. So he would ask them that please come and visit the field, meet the communities, talk to them. And that worked magic. And the visitors to those areas included Prime Ministers of Pakistan, also Pierre Trudeau from Canada, and Lady Diana from UK, and people from all over the world, as well as donors, from bilateral donors, multilateral donors, UNDP, World Bank, and other areas. So that is how he dealt with the donors. But for donors, another important tool was, please turn off your microphone, whosoever is talking. So for donors, they used to produce regular reports, narrative reports, numbers, where they will show what has been achieved, how much has been achieved. And if you go through the book, you will find fascinating examples where he shows that how much investment has produced how much result. What has happened, I am mentioning these things because, as you know, John Kennedy is quoted as saying that success has many fathers and failure is always an orphan. In this case, success is an orphan and failure has many fathers. When you talk about development studies, people talk about so many failures. They don't talk about the success, how to learn from success. And I think this is one of the biggest success that should be paid attention to. So with donors, it was regular reporting, transparency, bringing out numbers. And then it could be only endorsed and find meaning finally if people from academia testified whatever he was saying or whatever his program was claiming. So we have Professor Mahmood Hassan Khan, who taught for many decades at Simon Fraser University and University of British Columbia, coming to Gilgit and northern areas. He always invited academics to come and technical experts to come and spend time there and learn directly from the field and then share it with his management team and others. And they always invited students as interns, which they still do, all the rural support programs. So all of you here who are students at Trent or McGill or or other, I, on his behalf, invite all of you to plan to go to Pakistan as an intern to learn directly firsthand from the experience, because our rural support program eventually spread all over Pakistan. It is almost now in 130 districts of Pakistan. So anywhere in Pakistan, they can go and learn directly from that. I will end it here, but that is my summary. That is my reading between the lines from the work he has done. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was an amazing speech, Professor Fayaz.
Thank you.
um, Following you, we have Professor Takamura, and she has a presentation for us.
Thank you so much for giving this wonderful opportunity to speak. And I just want to let you know that my internet connection, unfortunately, not necessarily stable. So if you cannot hear me, maybe you can see in the transcript. But can I share my screen? I would like to, yeah, okay. So let me share my screen first. Okay. So thank you so much, Dr. Bachi, and also the organizer of this event. And it's really my honor to participate and speak at this book launch. And my main message today is more about what I learned from Mr. Bachi's teaching at McGill, and also that there are three important messages that I want to highlight today. So the first, I would like to briefly introduce our interaction with Mr. Bachi, and then also what we learned from his lectures. Also, I think the past lecture really, we can see those messages in his book, Social Transformation in Pakistan. And lastly, I briefly conclude my talk by speaking about the power of practice-based knowledge. So if you see this slide, I mean, the photo, Mr. Bhakti has been really great supporter of our IDS program, International Development Program at McGill. And I met him actually in 2017, December. It was, I think, a Christmas party organized by my Institute for the Study of International Development. I teach IDS International Development courses. In my specific research topic is related to labor migration. But I happened to sit next to him, and he was that time O'Brien Fellow at McGill's Law School. And he started introducing me about his really fascinating, eye-opening work in Pakistan, and really amazing contribution by AKRSP's work, particularly rural support development. And so since then, he is our favorite speaker at McGill's IDS program. And so I just want to show you that some photo from that those teaching. And what we really sort of we have learned from him is, I think it's more about moral, philosophical sort of teaching in development. And I think his words really speaking to us, speaking to many students. And in development theory, development discourse, we oftentimes sort of promote quantitative, right, aspect of development, expansion of resources. But Mr. Bacci's lecture, on the other hand, speaking more about significance of qualitative aspect. Quality aspect. And I could summarize those messages in three. One is practice, one is philosophy, one is goal. And I put here as Mr. Bacci's practice is really about the searcher rather than planner. And his philosophy, earlier he also mentioned that he really focusing on humility and listening. And the last part, I think, is about important message here. The goal, ultimate goal, should be expansion of community agency. And oftentimes we tend to focus on, big predetermined sort of goals, right? When we talk about development, we talk about sustainable development goals, millennium development goal setting, oftentimes seen as a really important, very popular in development. But I feel, I believe that Mr. Bacci's sort of mentality or understanding is not really about being a planner with predetermined goals, but it's more about being a searcher, to begin with something small but long term sustainable development outcome, externality, positive externality. So this idea actually coming from probably many of you know, the William Easter. He's a primary critic of aid, development aid, and his main critique is really that many development practitioners more concerned about clear, predetermined goals, but not really understanding local context specific needs. So I feel that Mr. Bacci's practice, particularly book, probably really representing the significance of being a searcher rather than planner. So that is my first point. And the second point, that is recently he gave us a fascinating lecture for my class, Introduction to International Development at McGill. We have about 300 students. And I asked students to summarize, maybe provide some reflection on Mr. Bacci's lecture. And 99% of students told me, wrote that what is the powerful message of Mr. Bacci's lecture is humility. So meaning that being humble. This is something that we don't really hear often. from development practitioner. And he can really elaborate. It's something that we find really eye-opening. And also, I think really so reflects his thoughtful, approach to the poor, to the community that he engaged. And from the beginning, since I met with Mr. Bachiu back in 2017, I feel he has persistent, coherent message to me, to many other students. It's really about being humble, listen to local community, don't be afraid of being rejected. I think these messages, actually, we don't really hear much, but I think it's really powerful and really reflecting the success of AKRSP's, right, a development practice in Pakistan, in South Asia. So I think humility listening, this is something that we tend to forget, but I think really going back to what William Easter is speaking about, being a searcher rather than, those planners with predetermined big goals. And the last point I found a really important point is about expansion of community agency. And the term agency is something that is very popular and many scholars use, but I do believe that Mr. Bachiu's approach is community agency is something really grounded on his, the long-standing, commitment to rural poor. And so the community agency, I shouldn't summarize it this way because probably, Mr. Bachiu can elaborate much better way. But what I learned and my students learned from his lectures, teaching is really about, and I believe in his book, really reflecting this significance, the value of community agency. And the goal is to expansion. And I think I believe that the three things I learned from him regarding the expansion of community agency, one is conscientization, meaning that the poor themselves, they recognize, they be aware of their situation and their own needs. So repeatedly, Mr. Bachiu told us that local community, they know their own needs. We really shouldn't, impose our plan. And something that I think is important in that process, local community, they become, their owner, they own development, they own their development projects, so leading to community ownership. And lastly, I believe the expansion of full potential that Amartya Sen speaking about human capability. So I think this is, the way I understood from his teaching, but also his numerous publications, but also I think that this, social transformation in Pakistan really reflected its documentation of that practice of expansion, regarding expansion of community agency. This is something very, we don't necessarily speak much. And oftentimes, Amartya Sen's idea about freedom, human freedom, we like the idea, but we don't necessarily know how to, realize. But I feel Mr. Bachiu's book teaching really sort of documenting how we can realize. And I think it's really that way I find really powerful. And the last point, really the last one, I don't want to take too much, but it's really about going back to, right to development, particularly the UN declaration of this international document, really speaking about the right to development, and very similar to what Mr. Bachiu is speaking about. But until today, not many people really documenting that the power of the right to development, self-determination, and community agency. And therefore, I think really powerful to learn about his practice-based knowledge. And it's really long-standing, I believe, contribution to our knowledge regarding how to really expand human well-being, human freedom, and expansion of community agency. So that's my conclusion. I'm really, it is my great pleasure to thank all of you, and thank you so much, Mr. Bachu, for publishing this book. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor. That was a lovely presentation, and thank you for adding pictures in there as well. Following now, we have Mr. Shaubi. I know you have a presentation for us, but I can make you host so you can present it, or you can send it to me.
I think he sent the presentation to Heidi already. If
We didn't get any presentation.
oh, from Heidi?
So yeah,
No,
we were just
he sent it on her email address, but the other option is that you make him
the host.
co-host. Yeah,
Yep.
co-host, and then he can.
Yeah.
Shoaib Sahab, would you like to sort of be a co-host, or you want to send it again?
You know, I want to, you want me to speak now? Because I couldn't
Yes.
hear her. Her voice is not coming to me.
No, it's your turn now.
Huh? You want me
Yeah.
to speak now?
Yes, I
please.
think you, yeah.
And this-
We can see this. It is, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm most grateful to Professor Fayaz Bakr for editing my notes for record into a book. I must say that he has a very discerning eye. You must be wondering what is so special about our Khan Rural Support Program that you saw so much in this. The fact is that, in fact, I had always wanted to be a civil servant, and I did join the civil service of Pakistan, which also gave me excellent training, including a year at Cambridge to do a postgraduate course in public administration. And I thought that I have achieved the ambition of my life. But then when I was posted in Bidan, East Pakistan, I met someone called Akhtar Hamid Khan. And he was director of Pakistan Academy for Rural Development and was experimenting with how to find solution to rural poverty. And when I met him, and I asked him that how you are doing, what you are doing, and he said, I've only studied what has happened in the world, how the countries which were poor are no more poor. And he used to mention a German by the name of Raiffeisen, that he's the first one who really, although he was a mayor of a principality in Germany in 1849, but he would collect the impoverished, the subsistence holders, the poor, and would say to them that you are being crushed with three giants. And who were the three giants in 1849 in Germany? The landlord, the moneylender, and the shopkeeper. And he would exhort them that, look, all of you have the potential to improve your livelihood. And he used to give example of Michelangelo. When his David used to be praised, he would say, I have done nothing. David was already in the marble. I simply removed the superfluous material which was covering him. In this way, he told them that you can identify what potential you have, and you can also identify why you are not able to unleash it. But the first thing you must learn is that individually you cannot do. So you have to agree to get organized. And get organized and find an honest and competent leader, man or woman amongst you, to lead you. And the second exhortation that he made to them was that, look, capital is power. And unless you have the discipline of savings, save money, accumulate money, and because so many of you will be saving, you will have enough resources to attract resources from outside. And of course, the third was that you should identify what potential you have to do. And this is at the household level. But each one of you should help each other. And this will help you to overcome the handicaps with which you are suffering. So that's what Dr. Hamid Khan taught me. He said that when I was the field officer of an area which had 1 million people, and he said, if you want to help these people, then these are the things we'll have to do. Otherwise, nobody can help the poor. So I learned these lessons, tried to do it while I was in government. But in government, as you know, you have a tenure of 2 years or 3 years, and I was not able to achieve anything. And finally, in frustration, I decided to seek pastures new and got into UN. And it was then that I was basically approached by a foundation called Aga Khan Foundation in Geneva, which has been set up by His Highness the Aga Khan. And they invited me to initiate a program in the area which Fayaz are very lucidly described, one of the most difficult terrain in the world. And they wanted 1 million people there to be helped to rise above the level of subsistence. That's where I got my opportunity to implement these principles, which Dr. Hamid Khan had learned from Rai Faisal. And he said that, well, if you look at Japan, if you look at Taiwan, and then he himself practiced it at Comilla, then it's Pakistan or it's Bangladesh. And he showed if you implement these principles, then you help the people get out of poverty. So for 12 years, I was able to get an opportunity, and I had a donor in His Highness, and many donors, and especially the Canadians were the first to come and help me when they saw this. And I worked, and as was described by an distinguished earlier speaker, the income of the people in 10 years more than doubled. But one of the main things was that the Aga Khan Foundation Geneva was able to persuade the World Bank to come and evaluate the program. So the first time after 5 years when they came and they looked at it, and I quote, "The order of priorities and phasing of AKRSP is unique. The institutional model is well honed, and the early and almost exclusive emphasis on institutional building deserves special attention. In some respects, the first 4 years of AKRSP correspond to missing years in many delayed rural development schemes." In fact, after this, I should not boast about it, but the World Bank started talking about CDD, the community-driven development. And again, in 2007, when they came out with a book that ideas that work, they said about Pakistan, AKRSP, that Pakistan experience with the rural support program demonstrates that social mobilization can work on a large scale, even in unfavorable climate of low growth, high poverty, weak democracy, and frequent changes of regime. So, getting this, especially endorsement from the World Bank, in the 12th year, I was approached by UN that would I be willing to take the lessons of AKRSP to South Asia. And in those very days, one of the vice presidents of the World Bank, Miko Nishimoto, came and visited AKRSP and was so impressed that she started a program for the sector managers of the World Bank. And she called it VIP, which meant Village Immersion Program. And she once asked me that, is any other country can do this? And since I had already started a UN DP supported program in India, I took her to Andhra Pradesh, and she spent 5 days with me there. And then when she went back, she wrote, I have just returned to Washington and did not want my time to pass on by before sending you a note of deep appreciation for making my dream visit to Andhra Pradesh possible. Every time I visit South Asia, I learn and grow as a professional. But the visit to India with you was extraordinary in many ways. I gained invaluable insights into foundation of poverty alleviation as an economist and a development banker. I feel I also grew a little wiser, perhaps as a human being. That fire in my belly is definitely back again, and so are the stars in my eyes. It was one of those trips I wished never to end, and felt as if I lived 1,000 lives now that it has ended. I do not know how to thank you enough. Thank you all the same from the bottom of my heart and with my soul. I think but the best endorsement was from not only the World Bank, which said that the Indian program was influenced by rural support program, but from the Minister of Rural Development of India, who said that Shoaib Khan pioneered the Khan Rural Support Program, Pakistan, and with the support of UNDP, started South Asia Poverty Alleviation Program. And the project has seen the journey of over 10 million organized households from despair to hope, from diffidence to confidence, from subjugation to empowerment in the last decade. The spirit of community empowerment has continued to thrive in India since then. At the behest of Mr. Rahul Gandhi, he visited Andhra Pradesh and founded on the same set of core values and beliefs, and thus has much to benefit from Shoaib Khan's vision and effort. Now, these endorsements, they continued because even in the World Bank, when they launched the NRLM, about which it was mentioned, which was inspired by the Andhra program, it said that the government of India's 5.1 billion National Rural Livelihoods Mission is one of the world's largest initiatives to improve the livelihoods of poor rural people. Now, that is what I wanted to inform you about, because what it really is, it's a true following of what Lincoln said. The government of the people, by the people, for the people shall not perish from earth. Now, the elected institutions are by the people, and the administrative institutions are for the people. But where is of the people? And that is what AKRSP did, and that's what basically I learned from Akbar Hamid Khan, that you have to have a framework of grassroots institutions if you really want to empower the poor to come out of poverty. Thank you very much. Over to you, Bakar.
Emily, you are turned off. You have to turn, you have to unmute yourself. You are muted.
Am I muted?
No, Emily is muted.
Well, I'm not muted.
No, Amelia is muted. She has to unmute herself.
Amelia is having some technical difficulties.
Okay, so, okay.
We're gonna start our question and answer period if that's okay with everybody. So if you don't mind sending any questions that you have to Amelia, or you can send them my way as well, either works. And we will start facilitating that. The first question we actually have is for Fayaz, and it's asking, what was the greatest challenge you found in writing this book, and what was the most rewarding?
Okay, I think the challenge was reading between the lines, because you read these notes and then you try to find out what is beneath the surface, what is going on. How do we connect with the community? How a community itself takes up the challenge. So when Shoaib Saab, he sent me his notes for record, I started reading them and then highlighting the areas which I think were very, very interesting. And then I wrote my own comments on those highlighted areas. In the book, they are in italics, so that you can notice that, this has been highlighted, this is very important. And then in the footnotes, I have given comments on that. So that is very important, because if you superficially look at things, they can be very deceptive. They can mislead you. So you don't look at similar appearances, you go beyond the appearances and try to capture the principles which are underlying those things. So that was the work.
All right. Our next question is, why Shoaib's successors at the AKRSP did not follow the practices of writing field notes. And the person who sent this just also mentioned that coming from Gilgit and knowing that it was sad that such a brilliant tradition had come to an end.
So do you want me or Shoaib Saab to answer these questions?
It could be either or. Maybe
I have my own answer, but I will let Shoaib Saab first speak about it.
Will you explain to me, Fayaz, what is the question? I mean,
They are asking that why your tradition of writing notes for record has not been followed by others in RSPs.
What does she mean by others?
Other, chief executives of rural support programs, do they write notes for record?
Well, I was a chief executive for almost 12 years. So I didn't leave anything for them to write, probably. No, I think what I insisted on, that the field officers, I insisted on their keeping diaries, because I could not really keep in touch with them individually by going to the field all the time. So they used to keep it, and these diaries are there. But it's all a question of habit. As I mentioned, that when I was in the civil service, we had a director, Mr. Burgess. He used to insist on our writing diaries whenever we went out of the field. So I really basically acquired this habit from those early days. And I very much want those people who are working with me to do that, but I can't force them. But you are quite right. they write, certainly they write notes, but not with this regularity and with this sort of a punctuality that everything that you see in the wheel, you write about it. But you know, I never thought that my lowly roads would be dignified the way Fayaz Bakar had dignified them. But it seems that they had a value. What are your views, Fayaz?
Shah Sahib, I want to add, I think there are two things. One is the writing notes very much depends on your own clarity of understanding what you are doing. I think that is very important. I think you have both your heart and mind engaged in what you are doing. So at the end of the day, you very clearly knew why you have come to the field or to this meeting. What did you want to achieve? How much you have achieved it? How much is left? What needs to be done? That clarity was very, very important. And that helps you in writing regularly. And the passion was there also to record whatever you're doing. And I think it also contributes to your own clarity of understanding and other people who are reading it. It contributes to their clarity. So there's some extra effort needed, some clarity of thinking, because with clarity comes the simplicity and brevity, which is there in your notes. So that extra effort is needed, and you are right. That extra effort can be done if you make it a habit, if you force yourself to do it. It doesn't come automatically.
So you see his discerning idea. I mean, I had no such idea when I was writing NFRs, but Fayaz Bakar can really tell that what really was in my mind, which is very true. Probably these were the reasons that I wrote the NFR. Thank you, Fayaz.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both. Our next question is, we've heard a lot of successes of these kind of programs, but what were some of the challenges or failures that you had to overcome? This could be for.
This is for Shoaib Saab. Shoaib Saab, they are asking you about the challenges you had to overcome during the course of your work.
No, the challenges, of course, as you know, the success of this program depends on three things. The first was the willingness of the community. If the community was not willing to get organized, then you couldn't do a thing. And the second thing was really the quality of leadership in the community, because these two were very critical for the success of this program. And the third, of course, that you need a catalyst, a support organization. These are professionals, people who have, as Fayaz Bakar was outlining, the humility and the patience to listen, not talking at, but listening to the community, what they have to say. You know, this program never went in a preconceived package that this is good for the community, this is what we should do. And that's what the World Bank pointed out, that look, this program doesn't go with a blueprint. It has a process approach. It asks the community, it asks the individual household, what potential you have, what you can do, why you are not able to do it. It doesn't tell them that this is good for you and you should do it. So if you have this kind of, and I was very lucky to really, because, I mean, for example, in India, all that happened was that this Raju, about whom Fayaz Bakar mentioned, I got only one person who basically understood what I was saying. I brought him to Gilgit and exposed him what had been done. And he was a changed person. He said, I never believed that community has so much potential. I never believed that people can do that. We always thought that we have to do things for them. So where this did not happen, there was no success. But fortunately, I mean, if I look back, to these almost, this is my 67th year of working life, of which I have spent about 45 years with the communities. I never came across a community where these things were not there. And fortunately, I was able to find professionals, because the program needs not expansion of program, but it needs replication of people. If you can replicate professionals who understand, and for example, in every country, I was only looking for one person wherever I was going. And if I found that, then it worked.
All right, and I think we have time for one more question. This is for all of our speakers today. Professor Takamura, if you've got anything as well you'd like to add. But what would your advice be to social sector personnel, but also young people who are wanting to have a lasting impact on rural communities and development projects in general?
Well, basically, it is something which is from within, because unless and until one wants to do this kind of thing, I mean, if you want, and you are basically wanting to have dialogues with the community, because this is all about dialogues with the community. And I've seen that all those who have worked with me, of course, Fayaz ran away, but the others are with me for the last 30 years, 35 years. They didn't go away, but obviously he had other things to do, much greater, and I'm so glad what he's doing. So I would simply say to the students that, I mean, if you look at the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN, the first one is poverty. And look at the situation in the world. I was reading somewhere in a German journal that 20% of the resources, 20% of the world population has 80% of the resources, and the poorest 20% have 1.3%. So if you really want to do something for the poor, then you can do a lot. And it's not that there are not opportunities. Everybody is talking about SDGs. Every government, every country wants to achieve SDG goals, especially the developing countries. And I was very happy that a lot of people in HRSP, a lot of students used to come for internship or from all over the world. I was very happy to interact with them. And they were really very, very spirited people. So, as Professor Fayaz Bakar was saying, you're almost welcome whenever you want to do an internship. You can come to Pakistan and we can arrange it for you all over. Now, in Pakistan also, we have almost 500,000 community organizations with 8 million households out of 156 districts. We are present in 149 districts. So you cannot force anyone to do this. It's all a question of they are looking at it, seeing, and the best practice that I have seen is that during internship, they really see what it is, what they can do, what they would like to do.
Professor Takamura, do you have anything to add as well?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I mean, come here to, I just to share what we learned from Mr. Bachir, but I think really what we learned from him is about, listen to kind of hidden transcript. He speaking about the sort of the importance of local, needs, and also listen to them, being humble. I think those words, and this book, I think, really documenting hidden transcripts and this, the rural support development projects, and really long-standing, I guess, contribution, but it's oftentimes not, public. We tend to look public transcript, but I think this is a time we listen, we pay attention to those hidden transcripts, and I think that this is one of the really great, the powerful, I guess, the message of Mr. Bachir. But that's I guess, only thing I can add. Thank you.
All right, so for our last question today, we've got a little bit of context first. So participatory approaches emerged as a critique to top-down mainstream development, but since then there have been important critiques of participatory approaches. One of these is that they often elude power dynamics. For example, participatory approaches have been criticized for reifying community and taking the poor as homogenous subjects waiting to be empowered. In doing so, their effect is, in fact, to secure institutional compliance, especially in large projects and programs. I wonder how this book might respond to these critiques. Thank you.
I think if you allow me, last two things that Shep Sub sent, and which will complete the list I already mentioned. One important thing is his work and Dr. Hamid Khan's work, their works emphasizes that you don't replicate programs, you replicate people. So wherever you go, first things to find out someone who is accessible to community, who is well connected with the community, who is just one door knock away, who glues the community. Schwab Saab developed his list of indicators for village organization sustainability. And one thing which he said, which sort of distinguished an active and thriving community organization from a dead or dormant organization, was existence of a vibrant local activist. So that is one thing, that you replicate the people. And if at government level, he mentioned of Kapula Raju in Pakistan also. So first is to find the people, find the person, man or woman, who is willing to roll the ball. And second is that it has to be a principle of self-selection. You don't go and select. You just throw out the invitation and let the people themselves decide who wants to carry the ball, who wants to. These are two important principles which you keep in mind. And you don't go there, Professor Kazu already said, with a predetermined plan and with a predetermined deliverable. You ask the people to be part of the game, you harness their potential, facilitate their work, and once they demonstrate, in the beginning, people are reluctant because they don't have full trust in you. They don't know if it will succeed or not. But once it succeeds, they don't want to stay behind. That is the secret. So it has to be identifying the person who wants to take the lead role and on self-selection. These two important principles. I will end it here.
Thank you
Because,
so
whenever I used to go to the community, they thought that they will just tell me their demands and their problems, and I should be able to solve it. And when I was present this idea to them, they were quite surprised. Firstly, they said, well, he's coming with with one of the richest persons in the world, and he must have a money bags full of money. But one has to be very firm. And as Professor Barker said, where we were not able to find an honest and competent leader in the community, and they had to select, we didn't know who those people were. They themselves were the best judge. And then only it could happen.
Thank you so much for that as well. So with that last question, our program has come to an end today. On behalf of Trent University and Scholars at Risk, we would like to thank Professor Fayaz, Professor Takimura, and Mr. Khan as well for dedicating their time today to share their experiences and the book with us. It's been very informative to see such a positive impact of development strategies as well. Thank you also to everybody who came and participated today and sent in questions. I'm sorry we couldn't get to everybody. But yeah, thank you very much for spending your hour and a bit with us. For any future events, please feel free to find us on any social media websites as well. We're Scholars at Risk Trent, SAR_Trent on most things as well. But thank you very much, everybody, and have a lovely day.
Thank you.
very much. I
Thank
think
you.
it was a great experience for me, and I never thought that I'll get an opportunity like this. And thank you, all of you, and thank you, Fayaz, and especially that KRSP will be kept alive like this. Now it's almost more than 40 years when I started this program. Thank you.
Thank
to
you,
all
everyone. Thank you,
all of
our
you.
hosts. Yeah,
Thank you, Fayaz.
thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Stay safe.
Thank you very much.